So welcome to this week's edition of Making Sense of It All. And there's a lot to make sense of this year, Francis Herd, because we're going to talk markets and then we're going to talk cryptocurrency. It is not the stuff of Hogwarts legend anymore, but you're going to tell me why a little bit later. But I want to talk about the markets quickly because you get a bear market and you get a bull market. Now, here is my Econ 101 that I remember back at high school and university. If I read three headlines to you, SA markets have outperformed expectations in 2025. Here's the second one. One of the biggest bullish markets during September was continuing, and market surges show SA merits rating upgrade. For me, and tell me if I get an A+, that sounds very bullish.
It is. This bull is running. This bull is running. And please ask me why it's called the bull market.
Oh yeah, why's it called a bull market?
Thanks. Because the bull thrusts its horns upwards, right, when it charges, which is in complete contrast to the bear. If it's not going up, if the markets aren't going up, and they're going down, then it's the bear, and the bear claws down on you.
So, I don't remember that from class. Thank you. You see, you learn something every day.
No, it's interesting. And this bull market is turning 3 years old. It's basically been going for 3 years, and it's incredible. And some of the gains are really wonderful. So there was a dip in 2022. If you had invested in the S&P, the big US market in 2022, when things started going upwards, you would have gained about 80%. 80 over that time.
I missed that boat.
Looking today, and let me just put in a little caveat. We're recording this before the US makes its decision, in all likelihood, to cut interest rates, but that could move markets either way. But today, this week, the JSE up 27% this year. The S&P 500, which is an index of the 500 top US firms, is up only 13%. So look at the extent to which the JSE is outperforming the S&P 500. Take that, S&P.
Yeah, I was about to say, take that, and take that, Donald Trump, by the way, you and your tariffs. What's pushing this, though? Because when I look at markets from a layman's perspective, I always go back to issues we dealt with in the past when it came to like infrastructure, when it came to load shedding, because to move markets, we need to have investment. To get that investment in means there needs to be a sentiment. And at one point, many, many years ago, our sentiment was down for various reasons. For example, the energy reforms, our new energy landscape, our internet infrastructure wasn't there, our IT infrastructure. How much of what I'm suggesting over the last few years has built up in 2025 for us to still be on this bull run? So
let's separate out South Africa, right? There's been some good signs. We've come off the greylist. Load shedding has ended. We've even been upgraded, although we're still in junk status by the credit rating agencies, which means they still see us as a risky bet, basically, for government to pay back what it borrows. So there's some good signs for South Africa, but often the market doesn't even reflect the real economy. We've been in real tough times. We still have incredible unemployment. And the market can still be bullish. And sometimes there's a complete disconnect. Now, if you zone out and you look at the world, it's been an interesting year because a lot of how markets react is based on predictions around the US economy. And the US economy has been there. There's been positive signs as well. And when Trump came in, there were going to be tax cuts, and some of that was welcomed. Some said, oh, it's all going to be inflationary and whatever he does. Then there's been disruptions as well. So you have the stocks that rise when the economy is looking good. They're still rising, but you've also had these disruptions. You've had Trump bringing in the tariffs and the predictions that could quash growth around the world, disrupt
also based on how other countries react to that.
Exactly, because and even affect the United States, because they would then import goods at a much higher rate. That could put consumers under pressure. That could lead to inflation. So there were even predictions that this could, what's the word?
Backfire?
Backfire.
I would call it a second order effect that perhaps wasn't maybe taken into account. It was this Trump idea of he's going to punish all the countries that he believes somewhat ill-advisedly have done the US wrong, and he's trying to claim it all back without realizing there's a backlash to it.
Yes. And he said, look, there may be some pain, but it's better because US industry will become stronger because they won't have to compete against these cheap imports, and we'll get the factories working, and so on and so on. So back to the disruptions, Trump came in with the tariffs. There was Ukraine, Russia,
still ongoing
issues with Iran, of course, Israel, Gaza. So there's been a lot of disruption. So then you have these other stocks that react to disruptions or assets that are doing well. For example, gold reaching an incredible record high, silver reaching incredible highs. So these metals, by the way, gold mainly important for us, platinum important for us, and platinum did well because of other reasons, but there's a renewed hope that there'll be a lot of platinum demand. So you have the good stocks going up, the disruptives, the stocks that go up when things are disrupted, and it's called an everything rally. An everything, basically.
It's called an everything rally.
Yeah, and it's been dubbed that. The everything rally when everything goes up. So it's been incredible for the US and for us. There are some concerns, though.
There are, and I was about to ask, what is the big but here? It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
But as we all know, we enjoy the bull when we're on it, but at some point the bear is going to want to come play at some point. I don't know how that's going to happen, but we can't keep rallying like this. Something's going to slow this down eventually. Where does that bubble burst?
Yeah, the bear can't hibernate forever.
Yeah.
So in the US, the big concern is that a lot of the gains have been among the tech stocks, the AI excitement. And is it all hype? Earlier we saw some great earnings. So it was the big five. Now there's six, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Meta, yes, that owns Facebook. And they've been doing incredibly well, but there's some concern that they're spending too much on artificial intelligence. And will it yield these incredible results? Remember when earnings came out earlier in the year, some AI spending was welcomed, but I think it was Meta. There was concern that they weren't competitive enough. So artificial intelligence is causing some of those ructions and some of the concern that has AI, have these stocks as well been hyped up, and could it all come crashing down when we all realize, okay, this is completely overblown?
So has AI been artificially inflated?
Great.
Can I go with that?
Yes,
is that what it is?
I love it. That can be yours. That can be yours.
So is that the main one that you're concerned about? Because that feels like a long lag for me. There's a long tail as to maybe one day we'll find out if AI isn't all it's meant to be. In the nearer term future, I always like to use your backup battery crystal ball, Francis. In the next 6 months, I mean, we've got budget speech coming up next year. We've got State of the Nation address, more just from a South African perspective. What could change here that might put us on the back foot?
So from a South African perspective, things are different because we don't have Amazon and Google listed, or Alphabet, but we have the big miners that have done well. Remember that everything rally. Remember the gold price going up. We recently were reporting on the first underground gold mine being dug, gold being produced in South Africa when we've had so many mine closures. So we've got these big resources stocks that have driven the JSE up to these highs. And the fear is, suddenly gold will go down. Suddenly there won't be this optimism around platinum. Platinum stocks are important. So we have a different sector of our market that has been driving the gains. And yes, it may all turn around. Having said that, there are predictions coming in from the big global banks at the moment. So I can give you a little taste of some. And they're looking at 2026. And they do see the bull continuing to run. So at least we can say, or if they're right, but Morgan Stanley expecting gains of up to 13%. Deutsche Bank, 16%. And then this is interesting. Goldman Sachs looks at where the opportunities are. And they're actually saying it's not all around AI anymore. So look at the stocks that they're saying could be really exciting next year. Small caps, because you have small companies around the world playing in AI, and maybe one of them or many of them or some of them will do wonderful things, and they can be the next big thing. Healthcare is really important. And then international stocks as well, which affects us. So when investors around the world are feeling bullish, they look at emerging markets like South Africa. And we've had a lot of interest in South Africa.
And they like us, and clearly our reforms are now coming back into place. That was the very amateurish point I was making earlier, that our infrastructure is now, albeit slowly, coming back online. Our ports, our roads, our export systems. And that's what they look at. Yes, they want something that is risky so they can get in, but they also want it to be sustainable. They're not going to just throw they're not going to throw good money at bad money, are they?
Well, some investors come in and out, right? And it's interesting that the rand is one of the most liquid currencies. People buy rand, then sell rand. So they come in and out. What you're talking about is the more sustainable investment that we do want, where they come and they actually build in South Africa. And they see South Africa as a place where maybe they can set up shop or set up shop and then enter African markets and things like that. So they are good signs. And our infrastructure bonds are doing well. Government is borrowing on the global market to build infrastructure. And hopefully that is catalytic again and leads to even more positivity.
Just before we switch and talk about Bitcoin, because I really want to get your views on Bitcoin, on those infrastructure bonds that you're talking about, is that more of, if you have someone seeing that as an investor, that's based more on sentiment than waiting for the physical infrastructure to be in place, that they can almost see that government is beginning to make plans and it puts us on their radar more and more?
Yes, and there's general demand for South African bonds. So what it means is that investors, despite the fact that we are rated junk, basically see South Africa as a good bet. So they can lend money to South Africa. They can buy South African bonds. They can get a great interest rate. And the risk always with junk-rated countries or institutions is that they won't be able to pay back. But the investors obviously feel that South Africa will always pay back. And that is our history. In fact, that's Africa's history. Do you know that? What was really interesting, and it came out during the B20 and the G20, was just looking at Africa's track record. They always pay back. Because if you don't pay back, you know what? Next time you go to the market, nobody's going to lend you money.
So it's like applying for a credit card.
Exactly.
If you're not going to pay it back, they're going to take it away from you.
Eventually, you're going to be black-marked,
the wolf's going to come knocking on the door.
Yeah, so very few countries take that risk. But the problem in Africa is that they're spending so much paying back that they're not spending on their people. So somebody termed it sort of, you're taking from your own nation to pay back. And we have been taking a lot to pay back. So that's why one of the good signs is that our debt has stabilized.
It's almost the story I remember from years ago. I forget who I was interviewing, that they were standing in a bank, just a local bank. And there was a young girl, sort of maybe early 20s, and she went to the teller. And this might be a very clumsy analogy, but this is how I think of what you were saying. And she was taking out another credit card, another one. So this is a second credit card. She was taking out that credit card to pay off her first credit card.
Yeah.
It's never going to be, once you're in that cycle, and as you say, taking it away from your people, if you're not getting yourself out of that mess and all you're doing is servicing debt, which is escalating and increasing, it's only going to go downhill.
And I think the phrase then is the debt trap, right? Which you can't get out of because you can't actually pay back without taking on more credit. You never want to get there. There was concern for years that South Africa would actually get there. A black hole so dark that you really can't climb out of it.
Okay, let's wrap up the markets quickly, but I want some free advice. Free advice. Are you watching? Are you listening? Here's Francis Herd. All of this is great if I was in government. All of this is great if I was a CEO. All of this is great if I was a multinational, Francis Herd, but I'm not. As an ordinary South African, how do I capitalize on this very good news of the bull continuing to run? What can I do?
You invest.
Okay.
You invest.
Here we go.
And I'm not going to tell you where to invest. There are wonderful people who are allowed to do that.
We are not a financial services provider.
Exactly. But get into the market. And people have looked at kind of, if you invest now, and South Africa has this great, what is the tax-free savings, where you can do a maximum every year. If you go and do that, say your child is born, one of the top investors said this a few years ago. Say you go and do, and I'm trying to think of the cap. Is it 30?
I want to say it's 30. I want to say it's 30,000.
Around there, it slipped my mind. But you go and do that for the first 5 years of your child's life. You go and invest in sort of middle of the range stock assets, a fund that gives you exposure maybe to South African and global markets, or take your pick. Do that for the first 5 years of your child's life. By the time they are grown up and want to go to a fancy university anywhere in the world, you have the millions to give. So it's a little bit now, but the compound interest is just amazing, because you earn interest the next year, and the following year you earn interest on what you put down plus the interest, and it just goes and snowballs. It's incredible.
I think once you discovered that trick, it's almost like you can see behind the curtain. Once you've seen behind the curtain of compound interest, but the problem is I think a lot of people want this instant gratification, and they can't hold on to the money, and they can't plan. Now, one of those things that one could argue that...
Wait, I want to stop you there, please.
Yes.
If you see behind the curtain, a lot of people see behind the curtain when they're too old.
Well, this is what I was about to say. It's going to be too late by the time. I was trying to find an elegant way of not being ageist.
Yeah.
So you saved me.
Well, maybe I can say that now as a relatively old person. I hate to say it, but...
Can we go with experienced? I'm scrambling to find a word. How about experienced?
Or what do they call anchors like us? Veterans.
Geez,
no, that's also...
That's okay.
Anyway, all I can say is if there are young people watching, do this with your first paycheck.
Absolutely.
And this changes the trajectory of your financial future. This means you can retire early if you meet somebody like you who has also invested. This means you can be comfortable. This means you can give your children a lot. And it's not always about what you earn. No. It's about just putting away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Putting money away.
And do we put the money away in Bitcoin, Francis Herd? You knew I was going to ask you this. And the reason I'm asking, I was reading this article a few days ago. Record highs, crushing sell-offs for Bitcoin. It's now first annual decline, I think, since 2022. I still don't know what I do with my Hogwarts money, though. I don't know what it is. And I feel like I've missed the bubble somewhere, and I'm going to regret this.
No, I've also been a little bit confused, to be honest, about Bitcoin for years. And the fact is, people who look at money look at it like this. We were once all on the gold standard. So every rand you used was backed up by gold somewhere. Then we went off, and then exchanging money is built on trust. I have to trust that 10 rand is equal 10 rand today. And if I give it to you, you have to trust that you can use that 10 rand tomorrow. It's basically built on trust. But there are governments behind this. There are reserve banks. Then Bitcoin, somebody came up with this money, created money out of bits and bytes.
I thought it was those coins that you buy in computer games to buy. I think the kids use it to buy armor for... Was it Fortnite? I didn't know it was
very nice. Those gold coins,
little gold tokens.
Little bitty. No, but somebody came up with this idea, and there was a lot of suspicion around it
because it wasn't regulated.
It wasn't regulated. It was used to also buy and sell dodgy things on the net because you couldn't trace, unlike you doing an EFT to my account, you couldn't trace where the Bitcoin was coming from. So the predictions were that this would keep going, though, because suddenly people are using Bitcoin. A lot of people are, even big asset managers started saying, okay, we believe in Bitcoin. US President Trump comes along and he likes cryptocurrency, which kind of led to a lot of optimism for all of them. The predictions at the beginning of the year were that Bitcoin could reach $200,000 this year. Today, it's at about 92,000, so less than half of the predictions. It's down 9%. So Bitcoin is the bear. We were talking about the bull. Bitcoin is the bear. The predictions is that it will continue to rise, but maybe not at the levels that we've seen. And I think there's still a few people out there saying, is this a thing? One day are we all going to to scratch ourselves.
To laugh at those friends of ours who bought cryptocurrency now, or at least Bitcoin. Can we call this a crypto bull? Would that be fair? I know you're saying the numbers are down, but I think people are still making money on it. I suppose the point is you can't even look at it in the same term as a normal market.
Yeah, so it's not a bull because it's not going up. You could, because the reason it is a bear this year is because it hit this record high that was, I'm trying to find it, above $126,000 in October. Then it came down. Now we're at 92. A definite bear market is when you go down from your high by more than 20%. So Bitcoin has an uncertain future, I would say. And what happened this year is that there were people making speculative bets on Bitcoin. They were doing it with credits, leveraged bets, and then it didn't reach the level that they thought. So there were these large buyers basically betting on Bitcoin, and it went up or down. It didn't go in the direction that they predicted or reach the price point that they predicted. So they all got into trouble. There was a lot of selling off of Bitcoin. And also Bitcoin is not as attractive when interest rates are going up. Japan is expected to raise interest rates when emerging markets like our own, I think, are attractive. You start looking at the relative gains you can get in other places. So
here's how we wrap up making sense of it all. So here's the two things I want to
Bitcoin doesn't make full sense.
You took the words out of my mouth. One, it makes no sense to me, and I don't mean to offend any of you that have got it. Good for you. Well done. But what is good news is cryptocurrency is not good news. It's on the decline. Maybe not the place to start investing and playing with right now. But let's leave it here. Our markets in South Africa have had a great year, and suggestions are it's going to look good for 2026.
Yeah, the bull will keep going. And maybe Bitcoin, you can take a bet. But the sage advice, not from me, but all the sages, is that don't use money that you really need. Yeah. Use money that you can play around with.
All right. So that's how we make sense, I think, of cryptocurrency. I'm still not sure exactly what it is. And that it's looking great for markets at the end of 2025 for South Africa. And it's probably going to look very, very bullish come 2026, which, by the way, is where I leave you for this edition of Making Sense of It All. It's the last one for the year. Thank you to all of you for watching. Any questions, comments, please drop them at the bottom. I would love to pick it up if it involves any kind of financial transactions, economy, markets. Let us know. It might be your topic, or I might even end up talking to you if you're an expert as well. I'm going to leave it there for now. Enjoy the rest of your festive season and enjoy your holidays as well. We'll see you next year. Bye.